Coming into college, I wanted to study like 5 different things, and I think of all the different majors, the Jepson School of Leadership Studies really presented itself as a way to think across different disciplines and apply different lenses to the study of leadership, whether it be a political lens, a psychological lens, a philosophical lens. And I think ultimately encouraging students to understand and make these connections between different disciplines really teaches students how to become critical thinkers.
For me, I think Jepson brought in everything I was looking for in a college education together. I never even realized I was lacking some of the skills that Jepson provided me, like critical thinking.
The professors are experts in their fields, but they also care about what they're teaching you. The students care about you as well, and everyone is trying to help each other. It's a wonderful atmosphere.
Jepson does this incredible job of creating a comfortable environment to encourage students to step outside of their comfort zone, to truly question the status quo, and to really immerse themselves in this art of leadership studies and learn how we can truly be an instrument of change in today's society.
It gave me the skills I needed to think about so many different issues going on in our society now, and really teaches its students how to solve them, how to understand them, and just how to approach them more generally.
I'm a firm believer that social activism and agency by the people can change politics, systems, and policies. So I chose Jepson to learn about how to effectively engage in society and bring those changes through studying leadership.
I think there's something really powerful about having a major that allows you to tackle some of the most pertinent issues faced by today's society on a day-to-day basis, and that applies to every aspect of your life.
I've always been interested in political science and history, and Jepson allowed for me to combine those 2 passions in an interdisciplinary major.
I decided to major in physics and leadership studies to gain the hard and soft skills necessary to excel in today's dynamic workforce.
I chose Jepson because as a student pursuing a career in nursing, I wanted to learn both the science and behavioral aspects of the medical field.
As someone who someday hopes to go into politics, I chose Jepson for its interdisciplinary approach to the study of ethical leadership. I really enjoyed being able to study historical leaders with thinkers like Machiavelli while also being able to meditate on what leadership ought to look like with philosophers like Rawls and sometimes, when we were lucky, a little bit of Marx. I think I'll definitely be leaving U of R proud to call Jepson my home school.
I fell in love with leadership studies when I took my first class, which was leadership in the social sciences. It just brought out all of these concepts that I feel that were somewhere in my brain this whole time, but now I was able to explain what these phenomena were.
So the Jepson class that challenged me to think in a different way the most was probably Dr. Price's critical thinking class. It just kind of helped me realize how to get the most out of discussions with people who had different opinions from me and really try to hammer out what a good argument is and isn't, and yeah, so we can just get closer to the truth as a society.
In my critical thinking class, I learned how to think and how to dissect arguments, and it's definitely something that I've used in all of my other classes here at Jepson and even in other classes at Richmond.
I would say my leadership ethics class challenged me to think in new and different ways. It was a class that engaged me with a number of different perspectives and new mindsets, which often I don't think we like doing or want to do too much, and I think moving into the future, it's definitely going to help me in my profession and moving forward in life.
Both of Dr. Flanagan's classes, leadership ethics and ethical decision making in healthcare, have really challenged me to think outside the box, and the opportunity to have debates with my classmates from all different backgrounds during classes really forced me to really reevaluate and challenge my own beliefs.
Both critical thinking with Dr. Terry Price and leadership ethics with Dr. Jessica Flanagan pushed me to break down common ways of thinking and come at arguments from new perspectives.
My ethics capstone course really taught me how important it is to engage across difference so that we can ultimately enact change.
The Jepson class that really gave me that aha moment was Justice and Civil Society with Dr. Hayter, where I was directly exposed to concepts we were learning inside the classroom, and it really came to shape my Jepson experience.
The class that challenged me to think differently was Riddhi Bhandari's Living with Digital Technology. I just never realized the impact that technology has on my own life, my connections with others, and leadership in general, so it was great to study that in depth.
My favorite Jepson class was a discussion-based class taught by Professor Saman in Don Quixote, where he allowed the students to unpack the lessons and further to relate those lessons to a leadership realm.
Our Justice and Civil Society class really got us thinking about the complexities of the ethical dilemmas that many leaders face.
I feel like all of my Jepson classes have challenged me to think in new and different ways. They've really informed my perspective on racial equality, structural inequalities, socioeconomic status, and just I think all the most important topics relating to humanity. My Jepson experience has really broadened my scope of understanding in this world, and I'm extremely grateful for that.
I believe that experiential learning is a key part of what makes Jepson's leadership studies a unique major for students to partake in. By being able to go outside the classroom and get involved in the community, I was able to augment my classroom learning by taking on hands-on experience at the U.S. Naval Academy and through classes like Justice and Civil Society, in which I took part on a police ride-along.
Experiential learning is one of the reasons that I'm most grateful that I majored in leadership studies. It really took sterile information just in the classroom and brought it to life when we got to go into the community and work with people and see how the things we were learning about were really manifesting themselves in society.
For my final project, my group and I went downtown and interviewed a bunch of urban planners and public transportation specialists, and we re-envisioned a public transportation solution for the city of Richmond. And that really helped us to take the things that we were learning in class and take them out of the vacuum and apply them in real life.
So at Jepson, we not only got the chance to learn about important topics like educational inequity, but we also had the chance to go into the field and apply what we've learned and help out in areas like high poverty school districts.
Well, Megan and I both went to the Hatton Sumner's Leadership Conference in separate years. So I went in my sophomore year.
I went in my junior year.
And she and I are both fellow Texans, so it was really exciting to get to go closer to home at UT Austin and experience leadership in that domain.
When we attended, we were able to do a StrengthsFinders test that really took what we were learning in our Jepson curriculum and learned how our strengths can be utilized as emerging leaders.
I had the opportunity through Jepson to study at Emmanuel College at the University of Cambridge. I learned about how leaders over time shaped the common law system and explored historical places such as Middle Temple as part of our class curriculum.
For my Jepson internship, I interned at the American Civil War Museum here in Richmond, which was a really wonderful experience, learning how we retell the story of the Civil War in a more modern context. But I got to carry that experience through into my Civil War leadership class this past fall, where we actually took a trip to Gettysburg, and I got to see where those generals stood, what they saw, and really how they made their decisions.
This past semester, I had the opportunity to take Dr. Hayter's Reimagining Richmond class, in which we were able to help an urban planner from the city of Richmond repurpose an old bridge in Richmond and turn it into a park for the community.
I was able to interact with the community of Richmond, and I think that those experiences have made me more nostalgic about my time here already, even before graduating, and will certainly keep me coming back to Richmond after graduation.
For my Jepson internship, I worked with the Legal Bureau for the New York Police Department, working with their Police Action Litigation Department as well as their Criminal and Civil departments. Working between these two departments, I was able to apply the contingency theory of leadership in terms of working with my superiors who were some relationship-oriented and task-oriented, something that I learned in my theories and models class.
This past summer, I interned for a nonprofit in Indonesia where I taught English and worked with Afghani refugees. And it was really cool to see how the things that I learned in my Jepson classes transcended cultural differences and were able to be integrated into how I taught my students.
I spent my summer over in Seattle working at a biotech company called Adaptive Biotechnologies. I worked in sort of a central department, and a lot of the leadership lessons I was able to draw from the internship were from how departments would interact with each other. It was a really valuable time.
I worked at Marsh JLT, which is a brokerage firm in London, and I worked specifically in the marine insurance sector. Because the company was going through a merge at the time that I was interning, I was actually able to incorporate most of the theories that I learned in Professor Gothel's Theories and Models class.
This summer I interned at GuyPoint, a research consultancy firm in New York City. I learned most about the leader-follower relationship as it pertained to our leadership studies.
I had my Jepson internship at Louis Vuitton in New York City, where I was a PR and advertising intern. My Jepson major really came in handy when I was trying to adapt to the leadership styles of my various managers, and I think it really set me above the rest of the interns in my group.
I interned at Charter Communications, a telecommunications company in Stamford, Connecticut, and throughout the course of the summer, I was able to see charismatic leadership within my direct supervisor.
So this past summer, I worked for Sotheby's International Realty in their marketing department,
And using what I learned in my Jepson classes about adaptability and public speaking really helped me work on the different teams that I was assigned to, and in the end, creating my final presentation.
I worked at a small startup called Boxcar based in my hometown in New Jersey, and I was able to apply what I learned about transactional versus transformational leadership from my leadership classes to my internship.
I interned at NBC Universal this past summer as a sales and marketing intern for WNBC specifically, and it was very easy to apply leadership skills in such a fast-paced industry with a very diverse culture because I had to apply how to recognize and understand different cultures and environments.
I interned at a nonprofit in New Canaan, Connecticut called Voices of September 11th, which is dedicated to providing support services to survivors, family members, and first responders of 9/11. I learned the importance of charismatic leadership. The leader of that organization had to constantly be charismatic to maintain an uplifting and positive environment despite such grim circumstances.
My Jepson internship this summer was at the Estee Lauder companies in New York City, and I was so excited to explore my studies further through the interaction between leader and follower dynamics and working to adapt to different organizational contexts.
I did my Jepson internship for NPR on their corporate sponsorship team. There I had the opportunity to apply some of the critical thinking skills I learned in Jepson because they were a relatively small team, so I could use my critical thinking skills to step up into larger roles.
I was fortunate enough to work in Washington, D.C. with FTI Consulting, and I'll be returning there full-time postgraduate. And I'm really grateful that I had the chance to apply the concepts I learned in my critical thinking and group dynamics classes to my work environment at FTI.
I'm doing my senior research with Dr. Hoyt. We are looking at mindsets and resilience. More specifically, we're looking at how we could possibly manipulate the anxiety mindset to in turn enhance an individual's resilience, and then how that could impact someone's willingness to engage in societal change.
I'm completing my honors thesis with Dr. Harwell, and I'm looking at how economists might consider using leadership within experimental contexts by looking at the role of perceived legitimacy in optimal resource allocation.
I do social psychology research with Dr. Hoyt, centered around criminality and fixed traits, and we'll be presenting at a social psychology conference in New Orleans in 3 weeks.
My research is on how you can change the Electoral College without amending the Constitution, and my research is with Dr. Al Goethals.
My research is with Dr. Hidalgo, and it's a Kantian theory of citizenship, which is primarily just focused on how we should treat others and live in society.
I am focusing on climate change on a macro level, weighing science and ethics in the cost-benefit analysis, and how universities can create a domino effect to spur social change.
I do research with Dr. Kristen Bazzaio for my honors thesis. The topic of that is serial killers and why we as an American society are so obsessed with them and have brought them into this celebrity culture here in our country.
I'm writing an honors thesis, and my research is on the criminal justice system and how it favors police officers after on-duty shootings of unarmed African American men.
I'm looking into the psychology of leadership, specifically the ways in which followers perceive leaders who've engaged in counter-normative behavior.
I did research with Dr. Hoyt on objectification of women of color. Specifically, our research focused on how scores of hostile sexism would impact the perceived humanity of Black women versus white women.
At a Jepson Forum event, I had the privilege of introducing the speaker, and I made a connection at that event who actually introduced me to someone at Deloitte Consulting, which led to a couple interviews, and I got a job down in Atlanta as an analyst for the government and public services practice for Deloitte. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm incredibly grateful to Jepson for the opportunity to connect there.
After graduation, I'm hoping to apply a lot of the skills and ideas that I learned in my leadership ethics class to a position in the public relations industry, hopefully working with nonprofits, think tanks, and public policy experts.
In the fall, I plan on attending law school to study either securities or real estate law. And I think the critical thinking skills I learned at Jepson will help me a lot there.
I'm going to be returning to the place I did my Jepson internship. It's an integrated communications and PR firm called Zeno Group. I'm going to be focusing on their healthcare and pharmaceutical clients.
Right now I'm still in the job search process, but I'm hoping to combine a lot of the things that I've learned in Jepson with some of the things I've learned in the business school, and eventually hopefully pursuing a career in strategy or consulting.
This summer I'll be working with CarMax before starting grad school at VCU. With CarMax, I'll be serving as their basketball league intern, and through that program they allow Richmond area children to play organized basketball. And I will be enrolled in VCU's Center for Sport Leadership, hopefully earning a master's in sport leadership and with hopes to work at an athletic department.
I'm looking to get a job in the nonprofit field. After doing my Jepson internship at Virginia Supportive Housing, a homelessness nonprofit right here in Richmond, I was really excited to learn about different ways that communities can solve problems like homelessness, so I'm looking to do more of that after I graduate.
After graduation, I'll be going up to Sebago Lake in Maine to work at the sleepaway camp where I attended growing up as a key leader on their staff there. And after that, I'll be moving to Manhattan to work at Alpha Sites, which is the company where I completed my Jepson internship last summer.
Well, I don't have concrete plans for the future. My Jepson internship at a small marketing agency in New York City affirmed my desire to want to do something in marketing or consulting in the future.
Well, I'm hoping to continue my work in the adventure travel industry, kind of building off my internship this past summer at Yellow Dog Fly Fishing Adventures. But for the summer right after graduation, I'm applying for a fishing guide position in Alaska.
This past summer for my Jepson internship, I interned at Bloomingdale's in New York City. And at the end of the summer, I got a return offer to be a buyer in the executive development program, and I'll be returning there in the fall.
After graduation, I'm going to be working for Bain, doing consulting in their DC office. This is an experience that I completed as part of my Jepson internship, and then I'll be returning to the company full-time. Really a great experience that Dean Soderland actually helped me to achieve by connecting me with some alums that were there, and I can't wait to get started.